Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Today we will be talking about sea member Mary Oceaneer, Merryweather Adam Pleasure, and former member Professor Garrett Reed. Mary Oceaneer was an English sea captain and celebrated treasure hunting during the late 19th century. On July 30th, 1898, Mary launched her experimental vessel, the RV Oceaneer Lab, to serve as her flagship. She used the lab to study the ocean and excavate goods from the ocean, leading to her being enlisted as a member of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Mary was a member of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers along the same time as Lord Henry Mystic, Harrison Hightower III, Professor R. Blauerhimmel, and Dr. J.L. Baderista. She even attended the 1899 Sea Meeting, which occurred in the Hotel Hightower in New York City, right before Hightower's demise at the hands of Shiriki Untundu. In the same year, she made a voyage along the Orinoco River of South America, where she was attacked by locals with arrows. On December 5, 1901, Mary did archaeology on the island of Castaway Cay in the Bahamas, where she uncovered a pirate sword from a shipwreck which became her favorite blade. Around this period, she also excavated the 18th century pirate haven of Shipwreck Cove on the South American island of Shipwreck and the sunken island of Isla de Morta, which she excavated cursed Aztec gold from. Amongst the trophies she uncovered were a pipe having belonged to the 19th century Atlantecan Princess Ariel, a contract made by Ursula, and the dead man's chest of the Flying Dutchman. She also seemed to have knowledge of the lost nation of Atlantis, having Atlantean writing marked across her diving bell. During the 20th century, Mary took her ship, the MS Salty IV, to the Floridian lagoon of Placid Palms. While searching for treasure, the MS Salty IV was hit by a hurricane that beached her in the lagoon. While it is unknown exactly what year this occurred in, early scripts for Typhoon Lagoon and the Adventurers Club suggest that this occurred in 1955, when Mary would have at least be in her 70s. Typhoon Lagoon would become the temporary base for Mary's chapter of sea, as she recovered her lost booty that was lost during the hurricane from the MS Salty IV. Moving on to our next member, Merryweather Adam Pleasure was born on November 18, 1873 in New South Frewsburg, Pennsylvania. He was the son of August W. Pleasure, a free-willing millionaire nicknamed Gold Rush Gus, and Lydia Lamar, a stage actress known as the American Venus. In 1891, Pleasure rejected his father's offer to set him up in business, wanting to try and make it on his own. He lies about his age, brokers commodities on the New York Curb Exchange to make his first million, and establishes the most advanced steel foundry in the world in Pittsburgh. In 1898, he would meet Isabella Domenico, and after a 3-week courtship, they would marry and have 2 sons, Stuart, born in 1901, and Henry, born in 1905, with both sharing a birthday on the 4th of July. Pleasure was an avid world traveler and adventurer, having become a member of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers around 1900. While in Mexico, he experienced a mystical vision of a moon-faced spirit known as the Funmeister, and sold his industrial empire to begin anew in Central Florida. In 1911, after discovering an ancient totem of the Funmeister there, he would purchase lands on the Federber Peninsula to establish his new sail-making business, and would buy a retired showboat known as the Bailey Fintnortner Floating Art Palace, and have it transported at great expense to be docked at the island. A third child was born on July 3rd, a daughter named Miriam, though Pleasure would legally change her birthday to match that of her older brothers. The showboat would serve as their home and Pleasure's office for the first few years. Over the next few years, the construction of Pleasure canvas and sail makers would go into full swing. with the power station, sail-making factory, and canvas work fabrication plant going up in 1912 and starting full production by Christmas of that year. In 1917, to celebrate the end of World War I, Pleasure set off the world's largest firecracker and accidentally destroyed the remaining land link and turning the peninsula into an island, with Miriam coining the Pleasure Island name. On July 4th, 1918, the family would move out of the showboat into a proper family home on the island. However, Isabella was feeling this new home had become cramped by Merryweather's extensive library and archaeological collections, and in 1921 he would build the Adventurers Club to house said collection and entertain his fellow explorers and adventurers in what would become his personal sea chapter. In 1937, Pleasure would give his wife an anniversary gift of an even larger home north of the island, which was eventually transformed into the Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa. The reach of projects and developments on Pleasure Island would expand beyond the sail-making business in the years to follow and eventually end sail-making in 1931 to focus on yachting. In 1922, after moving the canvas works to a far part of the island, a fireworks factory would be established in the old building and provide for annual 4th of July fireworks spectaculars until 1927, when it was accidentally destroyed by a spark from Pleasure's pipe. Advanced technological experimentation was also explored on the island, with Henry developing an artificial intelligence lab in 1929 and experimentations with new forms of transportations in the mid-1930s, such as prototypes, steam magnetic train engines, and the experimental X-Thing Flyer, which would crash into Lake Buena Vista on its first and only flight in 1940. Merryweather and his daughter Miriam would disappear at sea aboard the ship Domino in 1941 during an expedition to the Antarctic, leaving the island business to Henry and Stuart, who ran the business into the ground in the 1950s until Hurricane Connie destroyed much of the island in 1955. The Adventurers Club was sealed shut immediately after Merryweather's disappearance. Isabella would pass away in 1949 on Christmas Eve. Pleasure's legacy would eventually be revived when Disney found the island and redeveloped it into an entertainment district in the spirit of Merryweather's zest for life and adventure. This brings us to former member Professor Garrett Reed. Garrett Reed was an unethical archaeologist and member of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. In the 1920s, due to a controversial Egyptian expedition in 1929, Reed would have his membership to the society stripped by one Lord Henry Mystic, who was revolted by Reed's actions. Garrett would also become enemies with rival archaeologist Indiana Jones, as Garrett would often sell archaeological findings on the black market, such as an ancient idol in Peru that he competed with Jones for. By 1932, Reed had become a wanted criminal and also became obsessed with 3 mystical emeralds known as the Emerald Trinity, these being 3 jewels defended by the jungle which would grant immortality to whomever took possession of them. In his attempt to steal the jewels, Reed would be attacked by jungle vines aiming to protect the emeralds, which killed him and shoved his body into the dirt. These are the stories of the sea members from the history of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Tomorrow, we will be reacting to the Jungle Cruise, Curse of the Emerald Trinity from Hong Kong Disneyland, which shows the actual demise of Professor Garrett Reed. But thank you for joining me, and I hope you come back for the next episode of the History of Society of Explorers and Adventurers. We'll see you later. Bye.